Hi everyone, and welcome to this channel and welcome to this video. I hope this is the first video that you've ever seen from this channel. I think this is the most important video that this channel will ever make because it will really help you understand whether or not you should watch this channel. I know everyone's time is very valuable. I want to get right to the point and not waste anyone's time. So please bear with me. I know this video might be a bit long. It might be an hour or so, but it's absolutely essential to understanding why I have this channel and why you should or should not decide to watch and subscribe to this channel. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've, come across channels that I thought interest me. And, then after like 7 videos, I realized, this is not really the kind of content that I need that will help improve my life. So I really don't want to waste your time in watching videos from me if it is not for you. So that's why I ask everyone to please watch this video so that you really understand what this channel is all about. All right. Now, in order to understand what this channel is all about, I need to share with you what happened to me and why I was prompted to have and start this channel. So, if you don't know who I am, my name is Susan Burr, and I am, at the time of this video, I am 55, and when I was about 27, which is very close to about 30 years ago, I had some type of experience that really changed the trajectory of my entire life. All right. And that has to do with this channel and helping all of my viewers out there. All right, let me backtrack a little bit so it makes sense to you and tell you my history. When I was young, like most families in America, my parents and my mom especially, she prepared all my meals. We ate pretty healthy. We did not have junk food in our home. My mom was not a junk food person at all. We didn't have junk food growing up as a kid in the house. I remember being like having birthdays as a child, and I just couldn't wait to eat the birthday cake because it had frosting on it. And I was dreaming about cutting into that birthday cake with that vanilla cream frosting. So anyway, in our home we always had like fresh fruits, things like that, and that pretty much went on until I was about, I want to say 16, 17, 18. Then, life got busy. Obviously, I started getting more active, getting ready for university. I started to drive. In America, we drive at 16, so I had my own car, started to drive, and I started to make my own choices about what I was going to eat. So I remember at some point my mom said, you're all old enough now, you're 16, you can prepare your own meals. And so that was like a free ticket because, I had a car. I went out, I went to the fast food restaurants, I did all that fun stuff. And I started experimenting with all the kinds of foods that I didn't have at home. And one of them was, of course, sweets. And I very quickly became a sweet tooth. I just love sweets. I loved anything that was sweet. Even to this day. And, I was in charge of what I wanted to eat. So I didn't have to eat, the typical, meat, potatoes, and vegetables that we usually eat. And so I just thought that was fantastic. I thought that was fantastic, you know. And so this went on, for, some time. And I remember at a certain point, I'm trying to think how old I was. I was somewhere between 19 and I want to say maybe 24, somewhere between there. Because I love sweets so much, I had an idea that one day for dinner, I would have half a pound of cookies. And I know this sounds totally ludicrous, so please, please, please do not copy, what I'm telling you. This is my nightmare experience. I am not suggesting for anyone to copy this, so please do not copy this, okay? But I had this idea in my head that, I loved sweets, and I had heard somewhere that if you eat a lot of sweets, you could get fat. And I wasn't, as a young person, I wasn't really into being fat. So I thought, okay, let me, devise a plan here. And my plan, which sounds totally, totally ridiculous now when I look back 30 years later, but at the time, at that time, my idea was, well, since I don't want to get fat, I'll skip the dinner completely and I'll only have the dessert. And so I thought my dinner was going to be half a pound of cookies and a glass of milk. And the irony of the whole thing was I really thought, if I have a glass of milk, I'm having protein. And, I can't say it with a straight face because when I think about it now, I think of how ridiculous it is. But I honestly can tell you, I believed that 100% at the time, that it was no big deal. And as you will find out later, I was very, 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 very mistaken. So, this love affair with sweets went on for some time. And again, I wanted to be thin, so I figured, well, just eat less of the meats, vegetables, and starch, and just go right to the sweets. And the amazing thing is, this actually went on for some time, and it seemed like everything was fine. I was relatively thin at the time, and I was living the happy-go-lucky life. Never thought anything of it. Never thought anything of it. Never thought anything was wrong with my idea. Didn't think there was any reason to change. I just, thought it was great. And I'd keep buying cookies. In America, we have the chocolate chip cookie. And there was another brand. I won't mention the brand because it's not fair to them. But there was another brand that you could buy in like half a pound or a pound size. Now they're famous all over the world. But they were a vanilla cream and chocolate wafer type cookie. And they just went great with a glass of milk, And then at a certain point, I thought to myself, oh, maybe I'm not getting enough protein. Because I had heard something from somebody about, you need to have protein. So my grand idea in those days was, well, instead of one glass of milk, I'll have 2 glasses of milk. So, I mean, can you imagine how absurd that is? But anyway, so that was my thought process at the time. And like I said, this went on the end pretty much, all through high school. In America, we call it high school, or, you might call it secondary school, it doesn't matter. But anyway, through high school and then also through, my university studies. So, okay, great. Life went along. Then I got married when I was 27 years old. I got married when I was 27 years old. And I remember going on holiday with my husband, and we had just about been married less than a year, I think it was, or it could have been even a honeymoon. I don't remember, so long ago. But I know we weren't married for very long, and we went to a Caribbean island, and it's so hot there. And one of the days, I just felt weak in the knees, and I was only 27 years old. So we had just finished our breakfast, and we were going out, and I just, I remember just feeling weak in the knees and feeling like I was going to collapse. I had no other sensation at that time other than that. And I remember my husband catching me and saying, honey, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, I don't know. I just felt weak in the knees, and I felt like I was going to faint. So, as usual, they brought me in to like the, community nurses station kind of thing. And they said, oh, it's probably the heat, because we have many tourists that come here on vacation, and, you probably feel, the heat. I thought that was a bit strange because it was only 10 o'clock in the morning. But they said, oh no, this sun, you're close to the equator. The sun is very hot, and, it's quite normal. We have many tourists that faint because of the hot weather, and they're not used to it. You need to drink more water. So I thought, okay, that's great. No problem. Not a big deal. I promise I'll drink more water. So I started bringing the bottle of water around with me and, drinking it. That's fine. Everything was fine and dandy. Fast forward, it was about 12 months, more or less, and we were again on holiday. Sure enough, this time I remember we had just finished having lunch, and it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we went to leave, and we were crossing over from one plaza to another plaza, and sure enough, I got weak in the knees, and I felt like, I didn't feel like, I was collapsing, passing out, as we say. And again, my husband caught me and brought me to, the kind of community nurses kind of station. And once again, they said the same exact thing. Oh, you're on holiday, this is very common to tourists. You really, need to be more careful, you need to drink more water. So at that point I said, well, wait a minute, I'm drinking a lot of water. This has already happened to me once on holiday before, so I am drinking a lot of water, so that couldn't be the problem. Well, as soon as I said that, they said, oh yes, you see, it already happened to you once again. You must be dehydrated from the sun, or you must have, heat exhaustion. And that's why you're collapsing. So I wasn't going to argue with them. There was no need to argue. And I said, oh, okay, well, I guess it sounds logical, it makes sense, I guess. What did I know, And so I took it for, what it was. And I remember I went out and I bought a sun hat. Before that, I wasn't really into wearing sun hats. So I went out on the holiday. I had my bottle of water in one hand, and I wore my sun hat everywhere I went. So I really thought, okay, now I'm covered. I've done everything everyone has told me. I drink plenty of water. I sleep properly. I wear the sun hat. I'm in healthy condition. I don't have anything that I know of is wrong with me. So, I'm sure everything's fine. That's fine. So as far as my eating habits in those days, because I was married, I would cook a dinner, full dinner, for my husband and myself when he would get home from work. And that would always include, protein, vegetable, and a starch, and a full garden salad as a second course. I wouldn't, that I could think of, have, big sweets like a piece of cake or something during the week, because I was working, he was working. I wouldn't actually bake a whole cake just for the two of us. But I would on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I'd make a batch of cookies, I'd make a cake, and that would kind of, we were only two people, so that would kind of hold us during the week. I know the reason why, but that day I was working like part-time, and I got home, and I sat down on the sofa to rest a few minutes, and I said, let me make some lunch. But I wasn't really hungry that day. I never was a big eater, So I said, let me make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, if you live in America, or you come from America, you're born in America, we live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I mean, peanut butter and jelly, chocolate chip cookies, you just, it is what it is, So I thought, let me just make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm not that hungry today. So I made the sandwich. I took my lunch tray to the sofa. I put on the TV, and I just had my sandwich in front of the TV. Finished the sandwich, and I thought, well, let me bring my lunch tray to the kitchen. And the kind of plate I had, I don't know how to explain it. It's like an oval plate. So it's a plate, but it kind of looks like a tray, so you can kind of hold everything on it. So I had the cup, on it, the napkin, and the play tray. Well, as I'm walking from the TV room to the kitchen, once again, I felt my knees. Now, I don't have problem with my knees to this day, and I'm 55. I've never had any problems with my knees. I don't have problems with my knees. And that's a key element in this story, okay? I felt my knees letting go again. I felt like my knees were just not working. And I can't even say I felt dizzy, because I didn't. I just felt my knees get weak, and it kind of felt like I didn't have knees anymore. If you get what maybe if you have knee problems, you know what I'm talking about. It felt like my knees just didn't work, and I felt myself like a tower just going down. And I didn't have confusion, I didn't have sweating, I didn't have anything except suddenly a blackout. Well, then I'm not sure how long this went on for. I don't know if I blacked out a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know. I think it was a good few minutes. Because I tried to calculate from when I got home from work, when I put the TV on, and when I made the sandwich. So I think I was out for a few minutes. And the only thing I can say I remember was I felt my knees let go. I had the plate in my hand, and I remember putting my hand on the wall, trying to hold myself. And so I had the plate here, and I, just put my hand on the wall, like, what's going on? And it was like in the movies, my hand was just sliding down, and I blacked out. Well, I woke up, and, my plate was upside down on the floor, the cup was on the floor, the napkin was on the floor. I was in a very compromising position, had no idea what had just happened to me. And the part that really, really, really scared me to death was that I let go of my bowels. Now, again, stay with me on this story, because this could save your life or someone else's life. I had no medical issues at that time. I had nothing medically wrong with me. So why did I just suddenly black out and lose my bowels in my house after having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I mean, that is not normal. I think you can understand me when I say you don't need a medical degree to understand something was dramatically wrong. So I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Why is this happening? So, of course, I called my husband right away. And at that time, he worked quite far away. And I told him what happened. And he said, well, of course, you should go to the doctor right away. Do you want me to come home and drive you? And I thought, well, first of all, I feel totally fine. Like, I feel totally fine. I don't have anything in my body that hurts. I don't have a headache. I don't feel dizzy. I don't have any sweating. I have, nothing. I feel so healthy and so normal. And I said, well, I feel right. I feel so fine. I don't feel like anything's wrong with me. And he said, well, I don't mind. I can leave work now. It's just, I'm an hour away from, the house. So it's going to take me a while. And I said, well, I feel fine. And he said, well, if you think you really feel fine, then I want you to drive yourself to go for a checkup right away, to the ER. And the hospital was not far from where we live. So we, at that time, we were living in Rhode Island, the smallest state of the Union. So if you're from Rhode Island, we're not far. You can get to anybody's house in a few minutes. But anyway, so I said, all right, let me just go and get it over with, get a checkup. They'll tell me I'm fine. But my biggest concern was the curiosity of how could a healthy person so young, of 27, collapse and lose their bowels. So I thought, no big deal. I'll just go, they'll make some kind of checkup and I'll be home for dinner. I'll cook dinner tonight and everything's fine. Well, was I wrong? Was I wrong? Actually, that's when the total nightmare started. So I did, what my husband asked me to do. I just took my car and I drove it to the hospital and I told them what happened. And they said, okay, we're just going to, do some routine blood check, and that's fine. No big deal. So I thought, great, everything's great. I'll be home in time for dinner. I'll cook dinner. We'll have our usual evening. They'll tell me what it is. And, that's it. So things started, when you're in the waiting room and they leave you there to sit and stew for a while, things start going through your head. And I thought, okay, maybe I have low potassium, maybe I have low iron. Women, sometimes we have low iron, and all these things started going through my head. But I just thought, I don't feel sick. I don't feel like anything's wrong with me. I don't have any problem. Even stress-wise, life was good. I didn't have a lot of stress in my life at that time. So it didn't make sense to me what happened. And so the only thing I could think of is that I had some kind of vitamin deficiency. And I thought, maybe I have some vitamin deficiency, no big deal. They'll give me some vitamins. And I went home. Oh boy, was I wrong? Was I wrong? Well, now remember, this was almost 30 years ago because I was 27 at the time. I'm 55 now. So let's do the math. 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 25. Yeah, that was 28 years ago. So I do hope that life is so much better for us in the States. I really do hope that doctors take things much, much more seriously now. I am not sure that they do, so please let me know in the comments if you have had an experience like this. Was your experience like mine? Because I wasn't able to find anything in any textbook or even in or anything at that time. But anyway, this is when the nightmare began. And boy, what a nightmare I went through. Well, they said, we have to do some blood work. I thought, okay, that's fine. Well, this blood work went on, and all kinds of people kept coming in and out. Doctors that, they just didn't seem to match my simple, theory that I had in my mind of, oh, it must be, low in vitamins kind of thing. And they were all talking amongst themselves. And it started to get late, and I knew my husband would be home for dinner. And I said, listen, my husband's going to be home for dinner. I'm just here for a little checkup. Can you just tell me what's going on here so I can go home? And they said, oh, no, we need to sign you in, and you need to stay here for a few days. And I thought, what? Stay here for? I'm 27 years old. I don't have anything wrong with me. I don't even have a headache. I have nothing. And they said, well, I'm sorry, the tests are going to take a lot longer, so we need to sign you in. So I called my husband. I told my husband came, obviously. And they started saying, well, we need to test this, we need to test that. And I thought, what is this? What are you, and I kept asking them, what are you looking for? What do you think this is? And they wouldn't say a word. And you'll find out later what happened. It's just amazing. It's just beyond human comprehension. But anyway, thank God we're 28 years later now. So they started coming in and asking me over and over again, to the point that they were doing it every 15 to 20 minutes. They'd come in and they'd say, what's your name? What's your first name? What's your last name? What's your address? Where do you live? Who's the president of the United States? What's your husband's name? Do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? What's your cat's name? We had a cat at the time. What's your cat's name? And I kept thinking, why do they keep doing this? And, my husband, being the Italian that he was quite upset that they weren't giving us any answers. The hour was getting late. It was already like 10 p.m. And my husband was like, listen, we need to know what all these tests are about. What do you think? What's going on? We have to have some kind of closure here to understand why my wife is in the hospital. So imagine this. They said, well, we need to do a spinal cord test. Now, I don't know if you've ever had a spinal cord test, but I think having a spinal cord test was probably more painful than having my son. I don't know, everybody's different, but for me, it was no picnic. Basically, what they do is they take a syringe and they put it in the bottom of your spinal cord, and they fluid from your spinal cord. And this is insane. What they said to me was, we think that your wife could have had some type of brain, seizure, or she could have blood in her brain. That's how it was explained to me. And so they needed the fluid from my spinal cord to check. And I just thought to myself, listen, again and again and again, I am not a doctor. I know I'm not a doctor, but I'm perfectly fine. I don't even have a headache. How could I have had, blood in my brain and not even have a headache? not even have how could I have a seizure, um, you know, and not even have a headache or, anything. It just confused me tremendously, and they weren't giving me any information. So I just thought, this doesn't make sense. Why did they, and so my husband said, well, okay, if you say my wife had this, what's the next step? Hold on with me. They said, well, if your wife does have, any kind of blood in her brain, or, vein that has broken, capillaries have broken in her brain, then we will need to do emergency brain surgery. I was like, no way. I will not sign for that. There was something in me, friends, please listen to this. There was something in the core of my soul that said they are going in the wrong direction. This is not matching what happened to me. Again. I'm not saying don't listen to your doctors. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there was something inside of me that said they are going in the wrong direction here. And I said to my husband, I will not sign. I don't care if that is what it is. I will get a second opinion because I feel totally fine. And I just cannot understand how you could possibly have brain injury if you don't even have a headache, you don't have anything. So they said, so I told them right out. I said, I'm saying this in front of my husband. You do not have my permission to do any kind of brain surgery on me. I will get out of here and I will get a second opinion. And they said, well, we haven't decided, that you have this. We're just telling you it's a possibility. And I said, well, I think you're looking in the wrong direction. It has to be something else. This is just not it. So by that time it was close to midnight. My husband was exhausted. I said, honey, please go home and try to get some sleep. The doctor said all the laboratories at that time were closed and they wouldn't get any results of any tests back today. And they wouldn't start testing until around 10 o'clock tomorrow morning again. All right. So this drilling, every 15, 20 minutes, what is your name? What is your middle name? What is your husband's name? Where do you live? What is your address? What's your telephone number? Who's the president of the United States? This went on every 15 to 20 minutes for quite a few days in the hospital. They kept testing. They kept taking blood. Teams of doctors came in, all looking at me, checking my pulse, looking at my tongue, checking my ears. I mean, all kinds of things. And didn't confirm anything. Didn't deny anything. And about 3 days, maybe 4 days later, my husband and I were livid because, we didn't have health insurance at that time. And we were like, you haven't told us what's wrong and you don't want us to go home. You don't want me to go home. So, sorry, who's paying the bill here? The answer is we were. So I talked to my husband. I said, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I don't think we're getting any answers here. I've been here for almost 4 days and they haven't told me anything. So my husband was in agreement with me and he said, yeah, honey, I think we need to go get out of here. We need to go home and get a second opinion because we're not getting anything, And I didn't have any episode after that. Had nothing happened to me. I didn't have any problems. I felt totally fine. I slept all night, slept all the days I was in the hospital. I didn't need any medication. They gave me no medication at all. Didn't need it. And so my husband and I both said, she's leaving. And get the papers ready after about 4 days. And she's leaving. So it was about three to 4 days. Sorry, I can't remember exactly. But it was about because I remember it was afternoon when I got there. But anyway, so I signed myself out, basically. And on the release papers, this is what I find so amazing. On the release papers, it says condition unknown. So, you know, patient complaining of fainting and loss of bowel movements, condition unknown. So, okay, now I had another kind of nightmare on my hands. Actually, I had two of them. One of them was I got home from the hospital, and I don't know if this is correct, but if I remember correctly, I think within 4 days I had the hospital bill. It had come by mail. And at that time, it was over 8,000 US dollars. Let me say that again. 28 years ago. So somebody who's good with math out there, could you do the math for me? If we add in inflation for 28 years, what would the bill be today? Could somebody tell me in the comments? I'm not that good at math. So at that time, 28 years ago, it was over $8,000. So that was a nightmare. As I told you, I had just gotten married. I was married a little over a year. First of all, I felt like a failure in my marriage because I felt like I had gotten sick. And, you know, here this wonderful man marries me thinking I'm a healthy, lovely, everything's okay kind of girl, and I'm literally collapsing in the middle of our living room, hospitalized for 4 days, and I don't even know why. And now I get an $8,000 plus medical bill after only being married for a little over a year. Oh, and by the way, of course, the new house that we bought, we just got a mortgage for it, right? So if I wasn't stressed before, I suddenly was stressed because I had a new mortgage to pay. I was just married, and I got a new medical bill for over $8,000, and I still didn't know what was wrong with me, and I didn't know where to go and how to solve this, because they didn't even send me to a specialist. They did not even point me in the right direction. They had no idea what happened to me after 4 days in the hospital. I mean, what's the point of going there? Okay, I am not bashing the hospital. Okay, this is 28 years ago. So I just need to vent that out. Okay. But, yeah. And so I was petrified. I was totally petrified. I felt like I had been hit by a truck, like I was just run under a bus. And I thought, what is this? I just got married. I'm starting a new life. Everything was roses. And now this happens to me? And I don't even know what it is. I don't know where to go for help. I mean, you would think if you go to the emergency room of a hospital, that's kind of like a sure way to get help. But after 4 days, they sent me home and said, I don't know, which I do want to interject this and say thank you to the hospital for being honest and saying they didn't know. I do want to say that now, 28 years later, even though I didn't like it at the time. I really appreciate that, because I have heard stories of people who went to the hospital and they misdiagnosed them for something they didn't have, and then they ended up years and years in a kind of therapy or treatment that was not right for them. So as livid as I was at that time, to be hospitalized for 4 days and not know what's wrong with me 28 years ago, again, things are different today, I do want to thank the hospital for doing that. I want to make sure that my viewers and anyone who works at that hospital understands. I am thankful, and I'm so glad they did it that way. I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, the first step is to go back to our family doctor. Now, if you decide at the end of this video that this kind of content can help you in your life, I will get into further details about that doctor, how he helped me, all the tips and recommendations he gave me. As I did promise to keep this video like at an hour, I need to just tell you the rest of what happened. So I made an appointment with our family doctor. We did have a family doctor that we would go to once a year for a yearly checkup. And we told him the situation. He said, well, how do you feel? And I said, I feel fine. I totally feel fine. He said, okay, because, you know, I do have a lot of patients. He was a very good doctor. I'm going to put you at like 2 months for your next visit. But if something happens and you feel like you're collapsing or you feel a collapse is coming, of course, I want you to call my office, tell them what happened, and then come in right away. But if you feel like, oh, you're okay and everything is fine and you can wait the 2 months, then let's do it like that. So thanks be to God, I was okay for those 2 months, and I was able to wait the 2 months to see him. But I had another problem. Now, this problem was making me sick, which was the $8,000 plus medical bill that I had just gotten married and I had no health insurance. And I felt like a failure because I had just started a marriage and I suddenly brought an $8,000 bill into the marriage. And that wasn't copacetic for me. So in order to boycott, I don't know if I can say that, but in order to boycott that medical bill, I took a second job as a seamstress at night for pocket money. And that $8,000 plus medical bill. So I was, and I didn't just, hem 1 or 2 pairs of pants. I was very serious. I worked until like 11:30 midnight, and I got up to go to work at 7 a.m. every morning. I didn't miss a day's work during the day. So I just thank God that I was 27 and I could have done that, And so I paid off the medical bill within 6 months with the money I was earning from the extra seamstress job that I would do at night. So thank God, that part of it, little by little, did work out, but it was hanging over my head for some time. And as we know, in America today, the medical situation is, the fact that most people don't have the funds for insurance, and medications are so expensive. It's preventive care is so important, but that's what this channel is all about. So anyway, the 2 months came, and I went to see my doctor. Wonderful doctor. I will make separate videos about him. Absolutely sent by God Almighty. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I told him what happened. And he said, I need to talk to you for some time. That's what he said. I need to talk to you for some time to find out why this happened. I said, okay, doctor. He was a wonderful doctor. May God bless him. And he talked to me for 40 minutes. 40 minutes he sat in the office and he just asked me different questions. First one he asked me is, how is your marriage? And I said, it's fine. He said, do you have any stress? How are your in-laws? Do you get along with your in-laws? Is anyone upsetting you? What time do you sleep? How do you sleep? Do you have any problems sleeping? How are you and your husband? Are you trying to start a family? How is your relationship with your grandmother? And, he asked me every possible question you could think of. Well, one of the last questions he asked me was, what do you usually eat? What do you usually eat? And I said, well, I make dinner every night. I cook fresh, I make dinner for my husband every night. And he said, but what do you like to eat when your husband's not there? Dum, da-dum, dum, dum. And I said, well, when my husband's not home, or, he has a business meeting and I'm home alone, I like sweets, I like sweets. And he said, is it fair to say that if you could, you would rather eat sweets than eating, say, meat or vegetables with meat, something like that? And oh yes, doctor, I love sweets. Sweets are wonderful. Now, I still thought that my sweet tooth was normal and, everything was fine. And he said, I see. Then he said, I think the reason you had this attack is because your sugar dropped so low that you had a seizure. And if that is correct, that would perfectly explain why you lost your bowels. Because when you have a seizure, you lose your bowels, or you can lose your bowels. And I thought, well, doctor, that sounds so serious. Like, I could actually faint, pass out. I could actually have a seizure because of sugar. Are you sure, doctor? And he said, don't worry. I have a test that I can give you, and that will show you whether or not, my theory is correct. At that time, it was called the 5-hour sugar test. I'm sure they have a fancy medical name for it, but that's what he told me it was. He said, I'm going to make a follow-up appointment. You're going to have to be here for 5 hours. What we do, on the hour, they check your blood pressure and I believe take your blood, and somehow that's to measure certain things. And first hour and between those hours, you just sit there and wait for the next hour to take the test. So if you've already had this test, sorry to bore you with the details, but for those of you who've never had this test, it saved my life, so I think it's worth passing along. So yeah, you just sit there, and I sat there, nothing happened. Second hour, nothing happened. Third hour, nothing happened. Fourth hour, sat there, and suddenly, by the 4th hour and 15 minutes, there you go. I was sitting, it's so strange, I was sitting down in a chair in the lobby, and I felt my knees again. The same feeling that I had when I was on vacation twice, the same exact feeling when I had collapsed in my living room, and I was sitting in a chair this time. And remember, my symptoms were, until this day, I haven't found anyone who's had symptoms like me. I only had 2 symptoms. One was the weakness in the knees, like my knees were gonna collapse, which they did, and a total blackout. So I had none of the typical symptoms that are described with low sugar and sugar issues. I had none of them. So I was told if I felt strange, call for the nurse. And I literally, like, I barely got myself to the counter, and I just about collapsed on top of the counter. And of course, they picked me up, brought me to the table, doctor's table, and had me put one of those sugar tablets, fast-acting sugar tablets, in my mouth. And they said, here, eat this, keep chewing it, put it down. And once I had swallowed that fast-acting, sugar tablet, glucose tablet, excuse me, it was strange. I felt like I was in between two worlds. I was half in this world and half passed out, and so, yeah. And I felt like people's voices were going in and out of my ears, like from consciousness to unconsciousness. And my blood pressure and my blood at the same time as I was, laying down. And it was amazing. Within 10 minutes, I felt completely fine again. I had no problem. I could have, jumped off the table and went jogging or went dancing. And he said, and then they compared the results to the 4 hours and the 5th hour. And, the amazing thing, my doctor was so fantastic. Like I said, I will praise him in multiple videos to come. He really, really was a godsend. And so he said to me, you actually had a hypoglycemic attack. And I was like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And so he went on to explain it. And I thought, but isn't that diabetes? That was my first question. Isn't that diabetes? And he said, no, it's not diabetes, because diabetes is an ongoing condition. Whereas in your case, it was a sudden drop. And now, again, I am talking about my personal life experience. I'm not talking about other people's. He said, the reason, I believe, the doctor said, you had this is because of your tremendously poor eating habits. You basically were vegetarian. You didn't eat a lot of meat. You eat very little meat. I don't eat seafood, so another loss of protein there. And you also eat so many sweets and so much sugar. So in your case, you deliberately hijacked your own system. So what a shocker that was. So he told me what to do. And to this day, and God is my witness, to this day, I follow exactly what he told me how and what to do every single day, whether I'm on vacation, whether I'm not on vacation, whether I'm, whatever, even when I had to go to the hospital another time in my life for another checkup, every 24 hours, I do exactly what he told me to do. And I have never had a hypoglycemic attack except for once in COVID. And that's a whole different video. And I think you can kind of guess, in COVID, everything was messed up and everybody was doing things differently. So that will have to be explained in a totally different video. All right. So I really, really hope that this video gives you a good idea why I'm here. Okay? When this happened to me, there was no information. None. Zero. Hypoglycemia, there was no information. And honestly, to this day, I can't even really find anyone on the internet who had the kind of experience that I had, because the symptoms that they describe on the internet for hypoglycemia is nothing like I had. So that's very, very important. Very, very important. Now, why did I start this channel? Very simply, because all of these years I've had to do all the research myself. I've had to, dig and go through so many scientific, well, I love to read, so I will make that footnote that I do love to read. I love, to research. I'm a teacher during the day, so it makes sense, right? But it's still exhausting. It's exhausting, that every time just before you put something in your mouth, you have to read 5 labels to know, okay, does this have sugar in it? Does it not? And so many things that I had to research, because there was no one out there. There was no YouTube. There is, even today, until here I am, there is no YouTube video of a real person. I don't mean of an AI, make believe, doesn't care about you person. No, I mean a real person that goes to work every day, that cooks every day, who has to watch their sugar every day. And so I really felt like, well, that's not right. There should be. We should have a support system. We should have a community of people. I'm sure I'm not the only hypoglycemic person who has to watch their sugar. And one of the things I specifically remember the doctor saying to me very, very clearly is he said, you are hypoglycemic now, but if you do not change your lifestyle, if you do not change your eating habits, you will not only be hypoglycemic, you will be a diabetic. And it will be your own doing. And like I said, I was only 27 years old, and I thought, how can I be so young and be diabetic? Okay, nowadays, we have more situations going on, but at the time, it just seemed so radical, So that scared me to death, and I thought, no, I'll do whatever I have to. I'll research whatever I have to. I'll read whatever books I have to. The problem was, there really isn't very much out there on hypoglycemia. There really isn't. So I had to find my own way. I had to navigate my own way. Now, let me not go on and on, because I promised to keep this video short and to the hour, so I don't want to, overdo it. But anyway, I think there are 7 reasons. There are more than 7, but I'm going to mention the first 7 reasons who this channel is for. Now, I do believe there are more than 7 reasons, but I need to depend on my viewers. I need your comments at the bottom of this video. If you feel that this channel is for you for another reason that I did not mention, please leave the comments below, because like I said, I have to keep this video short. But anyway, I will go through the 7 reasons, okay? First one, you maybe you have felt fainting spells. Maybe you have felt dizzy. Maybe you have felt weak in the knees, but you have not had the regular symptoms that are online for hypoglycemia. Like I said, my case is 100% unique. There is nowhere on the internet I have searched for years and years. No one that I have ever found until the date of this video, there is no such person except me who became weak in the knees and then blacked out with no other symptoms other than myself. So if you've ever had those symptoms, you may want to consider subscribing, because like I said, I have so much more to say to you, but I have to keep this video short. And you know, my particular hypoglycemia, it was self-induced. The doctor told me that if I changed my eating habits and my lifestyle, I could live a full life. And I'm 55 now, so here I am. Okay, second reason this channel is for you. If you are caring for someone with sugar problems, whether it be hypoglycemia or diabetes. I do a lot of personal research on diabetes because I don't want to get it. And I'm under the borderline. So I am trying everything I can to stay under the radar, if you know what I mean. So if you are caring for someone you love and they have sugar issues, and maybe, you know, you want to try to help them, please consider subscribing to this channel. Okay. Number 3, you may have poor eating habits. You may not know what the right kind of food to eat is. You may think, which is what I thought, that if I was a person living with hypoglycemia or trying to avoid sugar, that meant I couldn't have any sugar in my life, which is not the case. What I couldn't have is what we call fructose sugar. I could have natural sugars. Now, again, I can't get into that right now. The video would be too long, but you can have natural sugars, and I'm not talking about like chemical sweeteners. I'm talking about natural things that come from nature, and you can live a sweet life without fructose sugar. So that's reason number 3. Reason number 4, as I already hinted to, if you have diabetes, okay, type 1 or type 2, and now there is another type of diabetes, don't know if you're aware of it, watch the channel and you can find out. I really keep myself up to date. Everything I learn, I share it with my viewers. So if you want to keep up to date, we have all kinds of like printed materials, things, downloads, free. They're all free. You can download them. We're going to have the website so that you can go over there and you can print out if you want to screenshot things about diabetes. Because I don't know about you, but when I go to the doctor, I have a million questions to ask him. I wait, you know, hours for my turn. When I get there, it's like, oh, okay, thank you for coming, bye-bye. And you leave the office and you're like, I had so many questions to ask him. Why didn't I ask him any of the questions? I mean, has that ever happened to you? It happens to me all the time. And it got to the point I had to start writing things down. Now, the point is about writing things down. What do you write down? If you're not well educated about your sugar journey, then you won't know what kind of question to ask your doctor in the next visit. So in just about every video, I will tell you the key takeaways of the video. There is value. I can guarantee you there is value in every single video this channel has. It is a learning video channel. We're not here for fun. We're here to help people to avoid the hospital sugar nightmare I had. To avoid people of getting a hospital bill of thousands and thousands of dollars. Sorry, I think that's number 5 now. Sorry. Number 5 is if you want preventive care. Okay, again, I've said it and I'm going to keep saying I'm not a doctor. What I am on this channel is your empowerment educator. Let me say it again. I am your empowerment educator. I absolutely have dedicated myself to researching, to studying, to finding out, to keeping myself up to date on everything sweet and sugar. And I want to pass that along to my viewers. Okay? Cut through the fancy, complicated articles. You know, I've read some technical articles that I had to read 3 and 4 times to understand what they said. Okay? I don't think you should have to do that. I don't think that's fair. I think there should be somewhere where you can get easy answers. Okay? So, yes, we will have lots of screenshot things that you can just screenshot it, take it right to your doctor, you know. So when it's your turn, you know what to ask him or her, and you have, you know, a whole new level of freedom. Okay, number 6. If you are a person that is struggling with their weight, or a person who, let's say, has diabetes, you are trying to change your eating habits, but you don't know what to do. You've tried, you know, recipes. I know I have. When this first happened, I go online. I did try to, you know, make those recipes like sugar-free brownies and all that. My God, I still remember the time I made those brownies. I mean, it looked beautiful in the picture. When you put it in your mouth, oh, it tastes like kitchen drain cleaner. It was disgusting. I threw the whole pan of brownies out, and I'm sorry. I don't believe in wasting food. I do not believe in wasting food, but the taste was so disgusting. I would not give that to my cat. Okay, never mind a human being. And I thought, how can these people put this recipe with their name on it on the internet? It's disgusting. Who would eat this? Okay, so obviously, I mean, we're talking about 28 years. I've been cooking my own recipes without sugar and without chemicals. I don't like chemicals either because I have, you know, like that aftertaste. So I don't cook with chemical things either. So if you would like naturally sweet recipes, cooking recipes that are made by hand, that don't have chemicals in them, that will be coming up. And that will be all viewer voted, okay? I will not put recipes that people are not interested. I will let all my viewers vote on which cooking recipes they want made without sugar, and I will pull it from my own personal archive, and I will make videos for that. Okay, number 6. Number 7 is if you yourself or someone you love or someone you care about is stubborn. Nice to meet you. You're looking at one. To change their ways. Okay, I just kept going on my merry way, kept thinking that my eating habits were no big deal. I was young, I was invincible, I could jump over the world and no one could catch me. Well, I was wrong, wasn't I? I collapsed and I ended up hospitalized for 4 days. So there is so much preventive care that you can learn on this channel. Not just for yourself, but someone you love. Okay? So if you wouldn't mind avoid getting a 4-day stay in the hospital, you know, multiple medical bills, etc., etc., just by following this channel for yourself or someone you love, you can learn so much, and you do not have to change everything in the same day. Okay, this channel is about step by step and day by day. I cannot stress that enough. Thing that I will share with you on this channel is totally digestible for you. It's totally actionable. Okay. It's totally doable. All right. Oh my gosh, look at the time. Sorry, I said I was going to keep this at an hour. So anyway, those are the 7 reasons that came to the top of my mind why this channel would be for you, or it would not be for you. Okay, this is a very specific kind of content. This kind of content is not for everyone, and I totally respect you and honor you if after watching this 1-hour video you say, well, you know, it's nice, but it's not for me. That's totally fine. We are still friends. Okay, we are. The only thing, if I can ask you a personal favor, is if you know someone who may need this kind of content, who is struggling, who has sugar issues, right? Maybe they also having, you know, insulin issues. They don't know why. They don't realize that, you know, that chocolate piece of cake at midnight or 11 p.m. is, you know, derailing their efforts. You may want to pass this video along. You may want to please share this video and send it to someone who could need this kind of content. Sorry. So yeah, this video is long enough. I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for, you know, investing in your health and your well-being. If this video is not for you, if you would please be so kind, send it to someone who could benefit from it. All right. Thank you so much. And if we are deemed to meet again, then I will see you in the next video. Thank you.